from all over the world. Sometimes they're from Turkey, from Africa, from UK and other countries in Asia. So this week we are very fortunate that we have our good brother, Dr. Imtiyaz Yusuf. He's a well-known scholar in the Interfaith. He has been having doing a lot of work in various universities. I share with you. Stop. I look a bit at his profile. He's a UK citizen. He was born in Tanzania. His father was formerly from India. So, you know, he's a multi-nationality. He lived in Thailand, in Bangkok. So for 30 years, I think he was there. Currently, he is an associate professor at the International Institute of Islamic Civilization in Malay World, ISTAC, at IIUM in Malaysia. So Imtiyaz is currently associate professor and deputy dean for students development and community engagement, and also he is the coordinator on Islam and Buddhism program at ISTAC. Imtiyaz is also being appointed as a senior fellow at the Prince Al-Walid bin Talal Center for Muslim Christian Understanding in Georgetown University. He's still holding the post, and formerly he was the director of the Center for Buddhist Muslim Understanding in the College of Religious Studies at Mahidol University in Thailand. He specializes in religion, with focus on Islam in Thailand and Southeast Asia, Muslim-Buddhist dialogue. And there's a lot of publication. These are among the latest one on the multiculturalism in Asia in 2018, and 3 phases of Rohingya crisis, religious nationalism and Asian Islamophobia, and delegitimizing citizenship. So this is in Stadia Islamica, Scopus Index. And another one, nationalist ethnicities as religious identities, Islam, Buddhism, and citizen of Myanmar. This appeared in American Journal of Islamic Social Sciences. And another one, Islam and Buddhism, in Willie Blackwell Companion to Interreligious Dialogue in 2013. And Dr. Yusuf also contributed to the Oxford Encyclopedia of the Islamic World in 2009, Oxford Dictionary of Islam 2003, and Encyclopedia of the Quran 2002, and the Oxford Encyclopedia of Modern Islamic World. He was also a special editor of the Muslim World and a special issue on Islam and Buddhism. What I want to add is that he is one of the product of Al-Marhum Professor Ismail Faruqi, and he studied at Temple University in 1984 to 86, together with Dr. Muhammad Noor Manuti and Professor Osman Bakar at that time. And they studied at Temple University, but not in the temple. The place is called Temple.
Yeah.
The university is called a Temple University.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about the biography of Professor Dr. Imtiyaz. I think he has a very good background in the field, and he is in a position to talk about Ramadan and interfaith dialogue. I think this is a very much related to all of us. We live in a multi-racial and multi-religious society, either in Malaysia, in Thailand, in America, in Indonesia. Pak Habib is heavily involved in this interfaith dialogue also. So how does the non-Muslim look at the Muslim in our practice of fasting in Ramadan? Through his studies, through his experience, life experience in various countries and in various community. Now we call upon Professor Imtiyaz to speak on this topic. Welcome, Professor Imtiyaz.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Wassalatu wassalam ala Nabi Karim. Professor Jamil Osman, Professor Fauzan, Professor Manuti, thank you very much for inviting me to talk about the view of fasting or Ramadan from and its perspective from Interfaith Dialogue. I also see my brother Ibrahim Yusuf joining from Pakistan, and I also say salam to him. When I look at the issue of Ramadan every year, as I've lived in many non-Muslim countries, everybody is intrigued to know that how do the Muslims can fast from morning till evening, from sunrise to sunset, without any drinking of water or food. And the main question I'm always asked is, how do you survive? And if it was the non-Muslims, if they say if they were fasting, they would die if they fasted like the Muslims. Actually, I take a very broader picture of fasting. As Allah says in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah, that fasting is nothing new. It was already prescribed to communities before Islam, before the coming of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so it is something new. It has been prescribed, and it is the purpose of fasting is to increase piety. Actually, fasting is not only found in Islam, but the fasting of Islam is seen as a very, very, very hard experience, as a very hard practice, and normally people call it as a dry fast. Other religions also have their own fasting. We know the Christians do the fasting for during the Lent, and the Buddhist monks also fast every day from noon to every day from the afternoon to the next morning, when they don't eat anything, any hard meal, but they only take drinks. We also see the Hindus fasting on certain days during the week. So fasting is a common practice found in different religions, but we don't understand it, and we don't share our experience together. So Ramadan offers an opportunity and an occasion for Muslims to explain that what is the purpose of fasting. The purpose of fasting is to increase piety, or taqwa, as very well said in the Quran. And the purpose of fasting is to increase spirituality, or ruhaniya, as we say in Islam. And Allah says, another misunderstanding among the non-Muslims about fasting is that they think that all Muslims are fasting of all ages, from young to old. And I always tell them that no, only the healthy people are fasting, because there are health conditions which are required for the fasting. So the old people, the sick people, and young children do not normally fast. So it is not a fast only as a compulsory for everyone, but it has certain conditions which are laid upon it. So Ramadan is actually also called as the month of Nuzul al-Quran. Just 2 days ago here in Malaysia, we celebrated Nuzul al-Quran, the day of Nuzul al-Quran, because the Quran is the month of fasting, is the month of Quran, and is the month of Quran and the month of Furqan, of criterion, of distinguishing between right and wrong, So Islam for the Muslims, about 1.3 billion Muslims all over the world, the month of fasting is a month of very practicing spirituality, practicing devotion, and informing others and sharing with others the spirituality of Islam. And that is the most important dimension of fasting. The other dimension of fasting is that it offers an opportunity for practicing compassion. Compassion is, or rahmah, is a required practice in Islam. It is one of the attributes of Allah, and Allah is called Rahman or Rahim. So fasting, by going through the fast every day, Muslims are able to empower themselves, to develop in themselves the spirit of compassion, of feeling for the poor, for the needy, and for those who are helpless. And these days, especially during this pandemic era, those who are suffering in hospitals, and also those who are weak or sick during these days. So that is my general first statement about fasting. And if you have any questions, I'll take them one by one. Professor Jamil.
Fasting, just to get the response from the others. There is no response, then Professor Imtiyaz will continue.
We'll continue.
Any response? Okay. Anything to add?
Yeah.
Okay, you can continue, Professor Imtiyaz.
Yeah, okay. So the purpose of fasting, as mentioned in the Quran, it is to build the taqwa or God consciousness, because Allah is eternal, and Allah is everlasting. He's the power behind creation of everything and the cosmos, and everything follows the law of the Sharia set up by Allah in the whole cosmic system. So Allah is the first and Allah is the last. So during the month of fasting, we recognize the awal and the akhir dimension of Allah's attributes. And it feels Ramadan is an opportunity during which the spirit of the Muslims is very high. The spirit is very high, especially in the field of spirituality. We practice Taraweeh every night, which is an extra prayer. Normally, non-Muslims don't know about it. They think we only pray 5 times a day. And I always explain to them that during Ramadan, Muslims also practice Taraweeh prayer in the night. And so the purpose of fasting is to develop and to acquire certain attributes of Allah within us, that we imbibe those attributes within our personality, the attributes of rahmah, of humility, of humbleness, to be humble, to be kind, to be graceful towards others, towards all fellow human beings, not only Muslims alone. And this is expressed in the way Muslims distribute the zakat, collect the zakat and distribute the zakat during the month of Ramadan. So fasting is also the month of charity. Fasting is a month of charity, and here comes a very important instruction from the Quran that yes, there are differences of religion between, or there are differences of religion within humanity. All human beings follow different religions. Islam recognizes the diversity of religion, but Islam also attributes a very important quality which Muslims should recognize, and others should also understand about Islam. That is that the purpose of Islam, the coming of Islam, and one of the purpose of fasting is to engage in fastabiqul khairat, to compete in doing good. So first part, as I said in the beginning, it is nothing new. Fasting is prescribed. It was prescribed earlier. Second, that it is a practice of increasing spirituality and rohaniyat, and to develop our God consciousness. And the third part is to compete to do good. That is to engage in fastabiqul khairat. As you know very well, today today the Pope today is the 14th, and excuse me, Pope Francis has recognized the fasting of Ramadan and called today as a day of prayer to be observed by all humanity all over the world. It is so we find that it's the recognition of the importance of fasting is also recognized by the head of the Catholic Church, who has taken this opportunity to call upon humanity to engage in fasting today, to pray to God to bring an end to the pandemic of COVID, which is the greatest calamity which we are facing these days. So this is the third or the fourth dimension of fasting. And I will end by the last point here, that it is also the fasting of Ramadan also implies and emphasizes the very important principle of the teaching of Islam of lakum dinukum waliyadin, which is translated as that unto you your moral way and unto me my moral way. That is, the Quran calls upon all humanity to practice morality, and the morality of Islam is to be practiced in the way as prescribed by the Quran and by the example of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And also it calls upon non-Muslims that they should also practice morality so that we can build a peaceful and a harmonious and cooperation and coexistence together. So this is my second round of statement about fasting, which has implications, and which is of importance for the non-Muslims to understand about the features of fasting and why do the Muslims fast during the whole month of Ramadan, and as we are coming now to the last 10 days of Ramadan. Any questions, any comments will be welcome here.
I open it. Yes, Pak Habib from Indonesia.
It's a great pleasure to see you again, Brother Professor Imtiyaz. I fully agree with your first and second statement. I got also two invitations today for this observation of the Muslim fasting from the Pope Francis.
Mm-hmm.
The sound, Pak Habib, is not clear. Can you check whether your
Most important that
unmute?
observe this sincerely to seek the God's help, because coronavirus is beyond the technology, beyond the
Maybe you take the line. While waiting for Pak Habib, anyone else would like to come in? Yes, Brother Ibrahim. We will come back to Pak Habib. The line is clear.
We can ask somebody. So anybody else has any comment to make while we wait for Brother Habib?
Anyone else like to come in to ask question, comment?
Just waiting for Pak Habib. I just give a comment. Besides their practice from other religion, even the medical perspective, now they have this fasting as the way to cure the disease, to help the patient in diabetic, in blood pressure and so on. What your comment, Dr. Imtiyaz?
Yeah, it is very interesting that the medical sciences have now recognized the importance of fasting, and especially for the people who are suffering from hypertension and diabetes and other diseases. And there's a lot of research which is coming out of very recent from the West and from the Western countries, which highlight the importance of fasting. Of course, they don't practice the fasting in the religious way or the way we do as in Islam, but the doctors are prescribing fasting to their patients as a way to be healthy and to have a wholesome life and well-being. So this is an interesting finding, and it is an interesting recognition by the field of sciences, medical sciences, of the importance of fasting, which Muslims have been practicing for centuries for now. Yes, Brother Fauzan.
Yeah. I'm want to look at this fasting as how we control our input, meaning that we do not consume food, drink or physical food during the days, but we eat during the night after Maghrib. Yes. But interestingly, we also control our spiritual input. We increase the tadarus, reading Quran, more taraweh, more zikir, more tahajjud, and so on. So we reduce the physical, because we know our body have physical, jasadiyah, akliyah, and ruhiyah. Now we decrease the jasadiyah, yani intake of food, but we increase the ruhiyah, spiritual, and right now we are increase our akliyah, the mental exercise. So by doing that, I see in the Ramadan we are better human being, because we emphasize more on spiritual. So that's why in computer science we have this term called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. You enter garbage, you process garbage, the output also garbage. But when I want to change to, instead of GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, is a good in, good out. You enter good thing, yani more Quran, more tadarus, more tahajjud, more taraweh, then you process good thing and the output become better. That's why in Ramadan, we become, alhamdulillah, we are better human being rather than other months. Come back to Shawwal, is we start to not control our food, then we square one. That is quite interesting. I want to see the ruh and the spiritual, they are interrelationship.
Yeah, that is very interesting. You see, we reach the maximum of balancing between spirituality and the bodily needs during Ramadan, as Professor Fauzan has rightly said. But unfortunately, we miss this, what we learn. We are trained during Ramadan to balance or mizan between the ruhaniya and the bodily needs. And we when Ramadan ends, suddenly we go back to imbalanced state of order, to imbalanced state of way of life. So we lose, and we lose the spirit of Ramadan immediately. I always tell my friends, and I always tell my students, that the influence and the impact and the experience of Ramadan should last from Ramadan to Ramadan. And this is very important. And this is a training which we have to do by ourselves, that we keep that balance of bodily needs and the spiritual needs throughout the whole year, until throughout our whole life. That's why Allah says that there is human being has created imbalance. Illa tadghaw fil mizan. And when they have transgressed the mizan, there are epidemics, there are calamities, there are disasters, and this happens not only in nature but also in our own life, in our own health-wise, and also in our spiritual life. So you're very right in saying that it should be good in and good out, balancing kind of thing, which we should learn in Ramadan.
Maybe Dr. Mano Manuti want to say something, Datuk?
Yes, Professor Mano. Datuk Mano Manuti. You put unmute first, Datuk. Dia tekan ALTA, tekan yang tu dia.
Unmute.
No, put unmute. You press ALTA. You need a technician over there?
Yeah. Someone's helping.
My daughter-in-law is a technician.
Okay, can see her.
Engineer.
Okay, now.
She is a pharmacist.
Okay, now on.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Jazakallah. I think what I want to talk is about how the concept and impact of Ramadan, as you have said, not only confining to Muslims, but we want also to help the other part of the larger community of the Ummah or the human being at the moment, where we can see one of the defects of the present civilization is excessive in materialism. So how could we take the spirit of Ramadan, and after all, after the pandemic of COVID-19, we take this opportunity, seizing this opportunity of selling the idea of Ramadan without negating the importance of other fastings in other religions, but working together in order to build a very strong spirituality to avoid unnecessary materialistic values in the present civilization of the world. So that is my question. Thank you very much.
It is very interesting that this year Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has his own hikmah, that the Ramadan has taken place during the pandemic of COVID. And it is a very important timing. And I also have been thinking about this, that it is a time which Allah has given us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us an opportunity to retrain ourselves and to restrain ourselves and to reform ourselves, that after we come out of this Ramadan, inshallah, the pandemic will be over and we start a new way of life, a new balanced way of life, and a new way of looking at the world, and a new way of living together in the world. Because before the pandemic, we were basically engaging, as you said very rightly, in excessive materialism and excessive aggression, a lot of wars and calamities and disasters. So inshallah, this is a lesson which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching to the Muslims and also to everyone else, that here is an opportunity that the human being redresses themselves, rebalances their way of life, that once they come out of this pandemic, they will start a new kind of a world of living happily in this world and also in the next world, and also at the same time living peacefully. This is an opportunity. I think if we don't use this opportunity of learning and training ourselves and our children and our humanity and the whole ummah, we will be losing a very important chance of reforming our ways of life. Otherwise, I believe, I'm not a predictor, but I believe that there will be even more calamities coming, and which will be disastrous for humanity.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good. Very good. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, anymore? Yes.
Yes.
You did mention people of other religions also do the fasting.
Yeah.
Can you make the comparison between their religion and our religion? Because if we say we are increasing the spirituality, they tell us, yes, we increase our spirituality based on our religion. Go on physical, medical, whatever it is, yes, we do everything. So how can we convince people what our concept?
I think the best way of the best way of
living in people in the multi-religious society.
Yeah, it is by sharing and learning about our different ways of fasting. But they have their own way, as I said, lakum dinukum waliyadin, that they practice their way of fasting and the way of their life, and they also learn about us, our way of life and our way of fasting and our iman and our faith. And we also recognize that they have their faith and there is diversity of religion. Of course, according to them, they do it in their way, and they believe that there are benefits in the way they do the fasting in their ways, whether it is the Buddhists or whether it is the Hindus, which we as Muslims can also appreciate and learn. For example, being a vegetarian is very important, especially in the case of the Hindus. They are vegetarian, and their vegetarian way of life is very healthy life too, which we should not overeat or engage in eating of meats or animal feeds. That is the one way of appreciating some of the values which others have. Buddhists have a very interesting way of fasting, which comprises of practicing compassion or karuna, whereby they give alms to the monks who are fasting every day. So we can appreciate also that they also have their ways of practicing compassion and balancing their health. and they learn from us. I always find by my 30 years of living among the non-Muslims, every year I am surprised that many non-Muslims, Buddhists, come and tell me that we really respect the Muslims and for their way of fasting. They are very amazed and they are very impressed by the way the Muslims fast for 30 days continuously, and they do it religiously and regularly without any break. And they really come to appreciate Islam through the fasting, through Ramadan. And I have heard many times from many people that they come and even tell me and said, we really respect the Muslims and we appreciate the way of Islam through the way the Muslims do the fasting and the related practice of zakat. So I have seen non-Muslim appreciating Ramadan and zakat, the practice of Ramadan, and combined with the practice of zakat very much as a way of Islamic way, or the Islamic way, or the Muslim way of practicing compassion, which are the attributes of Allah, of Rahman and Rahim, of course, and Rahman.
Any other people would like to raise your hand?
But Habib, Pak Habib, I think it's ready.
Yes, Pak Habib. Yeah.
Amit, yeah.
Unmute, Pak Habib. Pak Habib, unmute. Press the LTA button on your computer. Yes, yes.
Sorry, it has been interrupted. The esoteric part of the fasting is very interesting, and Shifa wa Rahmah is part of the religious teaching that the global healing needs more than just technical health care, but also on the mental health. But in terms of solidarity, Ramadan is the great time to develop this humanitarian solidarity and also to really pray for our common future, because to me, fasting and the whole dialogue of interfaith, we should go beyond the dialogue of words, the dialogue of verses to the dialogue of action, dialogue of solidarity. And from the dialogue of action, we go to the dialogue of humanization, to humanize, to recognize the others, and also to care of others. So from the dialogue of action to the dialogue of liberation, to liberate ourselves from selfishness in terms of relationship with the universe, with all of the creatures. It's need a dialogue to open our mind and to open our heart to the will of the God. So that's what I would like Professor Imtiyaz to elaborate on the dialogue of action and dialogue for humanization and for common future. Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Habib. You have brought up a very important point, and we have been noticing that not this year, but for last so many years, we have been noticing that the non-Muslims have been organizing iftars for the Muslims during the month of Ramadan. So that is what we call dialogue of action, dialogue of practice, where I have seen the Sikh, the Hindu, the Christians, and the Jews. They are inviting Muslims for iftar during the month of Ramadan, and that itself tells us a lot that this Ramadan can be a sort of a bridge building between Muslims and other peoples of other faiths, and that we learn about each other and also learn to live peacefully and coexist. Unfortunately, human being is a transgressor, as Allah says in the Quran, that that Pharaoh transgressed. He because of taqwa, because of taghut, because of falsehood, and that falsehoodness becomes an obstacle in building bridges between Muslims and other people of other faiths. So Ramadan is a very important time where bridge building is an opportunity for bridge building between Islam and other religions. And we have been observing that. Unfortunately, this year, because of lockdown, there's not much such activity taking place. But we still see donations being made by non-Muslims to the Muslim poor and needy for the iftar every day. And we hear the stories here and there taking part in different parts of the world.
Thank you.
Any other comment and question? Okay, we have people from Thailand also. And Abdullahi, where are you? Lamido in Nigeria, is it? Abdullahi and others. If there is no comment, then you can continue a little bit more, Professor Imtiyaz, because we have about 20 minutes.
Oh, we still have 20 minutes. Yeah. So basically, I would say that this year's fasting is an opportunity for humanity to learn, and for Muslims to also, if we Muslims to become an example of people who are maruf and who promote maruf and stop munkar. I think this is a very important opportunity given by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, that Muslims should not only fast privately, but also show the social dimension, the social engagement dimension of Islam, that that promotion of good is what is the purpose of life. And if we promote good, we will be bringing back the goodness which has disappeared from humanity in this age of materialism and excessive inequality and excessive capitalism, which we are seeing, which has ravaged the world. So it is, I think, an opportunity given by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. And if we Muslims, we should not miss this opportunity. We should not only talk about it, but also start planning action of what we are going to do after the end of Ramadan, that we become the examples of promoting the good and forbidding the wrong. This is a very important opportunity given by Allah for Muslims. And Muslims, as Muslims and as Muslims, we believe that Islam is the best of the religion. Of course, it is the best of the religion for us, and we should show the bestness of Islam, the goodness of Islam, the perfection of Islam during this month of Ramadan, and should not let this opportunity pass off as just another simple practicing of just of simple practice of fasting from sunrise to sunset or from dawn to dusk, but an opportunity to show to the world, to exemplify to the world that the Muslims are also the promoters of good, and they are the examples of being good in the world.
Any comments? Brother Malik, anything from South Africa? The other aspect is that about the Muslim fasting, we are restricting from the bad behavior.
I'm enjoying the atmosphere and everything. I'm enjoying the conversation. I'm listening.
Yeah,
I am reflecting
in South Africa.
No comments as such. I am actually thinking about what happens to our festivity when Eid comes. How are we going to express that? The joy of having fasted. I'm thinking about how possible that will take place. That's what I'm thinking about right now. I mean, alhamdulillah. Ramadan
this year the festivity will be toned down. Will be toned down.
No, but
Amir, please, Brother Malik. Yeah.
Isn't it possible for the big alims to pass a fatwa that we can pray on Zoom, for example, behind the Mufti of the Balad, the Mufti of the country, So we all feel, you know, some sort of the spirit, a united, connected spirit.
Brother Malik, in Malaysia, what we are doing, we like tomorrow, Friday prayer, we have some sort like tazkirah rather than khutbah Friday. Then our brothers will give a Zoom. Then we are listen during those time. 1 o'clock is normally we pray 1:30. So we can do the same thing. But in Malaysia tomorrow, some states already allow because they are a green zone, meaning that there are no cases for last 2-3 weeks. So they are allowed to pray, but they still have some kind of standard operating procedure, yakni only 12 Jum'ah in one masjid, something like that. So I don't know, we have like less than 2 weeks, less than 10 days in fact. How we going to do the Eid? But normally now they say you can pray at home, but maybe you can listen to khutbah nationally or regionally. Allahu Alam.
It's not the fatwa, is it?
Which one?
not Professor Pauzan. Okay,
but for the Friday prayer, the still a place or they give the fatwa, you can pray 12 up to 12 tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just want to add something more, which I did not highlight very much on, is Laylatul Qadr, which is going to come very soon, because this is the month of Quran, the month of Laylatul Qadr, and we will be celebrating Laylatul Qadr very soon. And it is another important opportunity of a chance which Allah provides for the Muslims to increase their spirituality by engaging in devotion the whole night of Laylatul Qadr. That is the 27th of Ramadan, or 21st or 25th, whichever way you follow. And this is where the intensity of Ramadan comes in. The final, the climax of Ramadan practice, experience of Ramadan comes in, is on the night of Laylatul Qadr, and it is a blessed night, and a night when Allah's blessings are going to flow, and Allah's blessings will come down. So we should make a lot of dua, especially in this Laylatul Qadr, we as Muslims, that may Allah end this pandemic, and we repent, and we repent, and we ask Allah's forgiveness for all the wrong humanity has done, not only us personally, but all humanity has done towards the creation which Allah has created, and towards what Allah has bestowed upon us. And this is an opportunity. This Laylatul Qadr should be an opportunity which every one of us should take personally very, very seriously, and also and pray to Allah for forgiveness and to renew the world again, inshallah.
Okay. Brother Muhammad Junaid, you want to ask question? You have question on the group chat here. Would you like to ask personally? Brother Muhammad Junaid, can you hear us? He is asking, Prof, my question is about appreciation. Just now, Prof Imtiyaz mentioned, does appreciation mean to recognize their religion or their values? For example, Prof Imtiyaz said we should appreciate fasting of Buddhists or Hindus or being rich.
Yeah, the question is to recognize the diversity of religions. Lakum dinukum waliyadin. That they have their way and we have our way. It is not an acceptance. It is a recognition of religious diversity. And this is the part of the Quran. Quran itself talks about people of other faiths. It calls the Jews and Christians as Ahl al-Kitab. So it is a recognition of religious diversity, which is there. And of course, it is also a recognition that the dawah has to be continued. So recognition does not mean that we accept their religion, but that we recognize their ways, and we accept that we are different from them and they're different from us, and that our beliefs are different, but our ways of living peacefully and living together in this world which we share together is very important.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we open some more to the audience. Or you have enough? Bayat Hussein?
Can I say a few words? Jamil, my name is Pak Chi Han.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
Chihan.
Chen.
Yeah.
I like, first of all, I like to, maybe people cannot see me. Yeah, I can.
You are from where? Ken?
First of all,
He's from Kuala Lumpur.
I'm from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. My name, I'm actually a president of a Buddhist council in Malaysia. It's
Oh,
called the
welcome.
Vajrayana Buddhist Council of Malaysia. It's a Vajrayana, for those who are not familiar, those aligned to the Tibetan Buddhist groups, yeah, called the Vajrayana Buddhist Council. So first of all, I'd like to thank Professor Imtiyaz for inviting me to this what do you call
This
webinar?
forum.
Is it
Yeah.
forum? Yeah,
Yeah,
forum.
seminar.
And I find it so enlightening to hear the views of all the eminent speakers here. And yeah, you know, I just like to acknowledge that there are many commonalities in the way we do, you know, as what Professor Imtiyaz has mentioned about fasting and etc. So it is something very inspiring, yeah. Especially again, I like to thank Professor Imtiyaz. I hope that in future we can work more together. Yeah, Professor.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Chi. Very nice to see you here. Thank you for coming, and I appreciate your presence here. Yes, this you are very right that this is an opportunity for building interreligious understanding between Muslims and Buddhists here, especially in Malaysia and also in Southeast Asia, because Islam and Buddhism are the two largest religions of Southeast Asia, and we have to live together. Muslims and Buddhists make up about 40% each of this part of Southeast Asia, and it is very important that Muslim Buddhist understanding should be pursued and should be promoted. And there are opportunities where the Buddhists have their events and their ceremonies in which we Muslims should go and participate and understand and reckon and see them. And as you and I know she always attends many talks of Professor Usman, and he's very much interested in Muslim Buddhist dialogue. So thank you very much, Chi. Nice to see you here.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Chi.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamil.
Any other comments?
There is a question here by Putri Ayu Kusuma about the attack on Afghanistan, which happened just yesterday. Well, this is really very sad thing to happen during the month of Ramadan. It saddens me always when I see violence taking places during the month of Ramadan in Muslim countries. It really gives a very bad impression about the religion of Islam, and also about the practice, about the image of Islam. So it is very unfortunate that what has happened there yesterday, and it provoked. And you are right that it gives misunderstanding to the non-Muslims about how it gives wrong understanding to the non-Muslims when we say Islam is the religion of peace. Yes, Putri, it is very unfortunate, and I'm very sad to see what happened, especially when the attack took place yesterday at the maternity hospital in Afghanistan.
Okay, I give another 5 to 6 minutes more to open up to the others.
I'd like to ask a question.
Yeah, Malik.
Yes. I want to ask a question, Professor.
Yeah.
What do you think about substituting interfaith or religious
What do you mean
dialogue
substituting?
for human?
Explain the word
for
substitute.
human dialogue. Yeah?
Define the word substituted, please.
Replacing. I think the reason why I'm asking this question is because when we say interfaith, or we say interreligious or religious, it's almost like if those people who are not religious are left out of the dialogue or left out of the conversation. Isn't it better to have even intervalization or just a human dialogue?
I think they're not left out of the dialogue. I don't think they are left out of the dialogue. The people who don't follow religions also have been appreciating the Ramadan month, as we know very much, especially formally, like the governments and non-Muslim governments in non-Muslim countries have been recognizing and respecting the practice of Ramadan, and they are recognizing that yes, the Muslims have their own practice, but that's what if you are looking for the answer, I would say it is a recognition, mutual recognition, even by the non-Muslims. I'm just by the atheists who don't believe in religion. That yes, there is a freedom of religion, but people are free to practice their religion as they like. I don't know if I've answered the question.
So Aslam, like.
Thank you, Professor.
Aslam, you'd like to comment something? Aslam?
Vilayat, do you have anything to ask? Vilayat Hussain?
Yeah, Vilayat Hussain.
He's a very active young man. I'd like to listen from him.
Okay, Prof. Do you listen to me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Thank you so much, Prof. And I'm so enlightened by your speech. Alhamdulillah, thank you.
Welcome.
Prof, yeah, I'd like to ask something about Rohingya people, Rohingya who have been killed by Buddhist people, and you have also studied about them, and you have a very good research about them. So in this month of Ramadan, what do you want to say about Rohingya people that they have been passing a miserable life in Bangladesh, and many of them also have been killed in their own country, in their own residence. So in this time, what do you want to say about them to the authority of Myanmar?
It's a political question. You are right. As I've written about the Rohingya, that they have been deprived of citizenship, which is basically a basic human right. And unfortunately, the government in Myanmar, which is a military-dominated government, is not paying attention to the needs of the Rohingya, to the recognition of the rights of the Rohingya. But we should not take only that perspective, but we should also recognize that there are many Buddhist monks in Myanmar who are generous and cooperating and filling and cooperating and also helping the Rohingya in different ways. And that has to be recognized at the same time. Unfortunately, the Rohingya are suffering, and it is very sad to see that even during this time of COVID, I think I fear and I care for their suffering, and it is very unfortunate. But I hope that, as there's some scholars are now called, that there should be an international solution to the Rohingya problem. I want to go to a question here which has come from Yusaria about the Buddhist fasting. The Buddhists, there are two, as you know, there are two sects in Buddhism, the Mahayana and the Theravada. The Theravada do the fasting, do their fast every day from noon to morning, next morning. And it is not only as a habit, but it is as a religious way. And they are very strict on it, that after they eat breakfast and they eat lunch, and after that they don't take any heavy meal, but they take water and liquids only. And they do it very religiously because they see that as a way of developing compassion and patience and balancing our esoteric and esoteric dimension of our everyday life. So yes, they practice it as a religious way. I had many Buddhist monk students when I was teaching in Thailand who practiced it very religiously.
Prof, yeah, I have another question, if
Yes.
you allow me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that one is basically, we see that in our country, also in other places, we are Muslims, but we are not encouraged to study other religion, to know their culture, to know their behavior, or to know their things. So actually, why is this? If we don't know them, so how can we know that Islam is better than other religion? So in this case, what do you want to say, Prof?
Well, I'm a student of Professor Ismail Al-Faruqi, and he always encouraged us Muslims to study other religions. Professor Manuti, Professor Osman Bakar, as you know, are experts, besides me, who have studied other religions, who have engaged with other religions. Unfortunately, the curriculums in Muslim universities and Muslim schools do not encourage the teaching of other religions. I wonder, and when we say Islam is the best of the religion, and we are so confident about Islam, why are we afraid to study other religions? There's nothing to be afraid of learning other religions. In fact, by learning other religions, as Professor Manuti will also agree with me, is that it leads us to recognize our own religion much better and to appreciate our religion much better. So there is a need of universities in Muslim countries to start teaching other religions, and not teach other religions by Muslims, but let the teachers of other religions be taught by the practitioners of those religions. And that will help us to increase our own better understanding of Islam, and also contribute and play an important role of Islam in building peaceful coexistence in the human world. Because I tell you, and I tell this very confidently, that Islam is the only religion in the world which recognizes and includes all other religions within humanity. We always say this in the Quran, that Quran respects others as Ahl al-Kitab. It respects them by giving them a designation, and not saying that they are lesser human beings, but they are people of those who have received religions before Islam.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
Yeah, because we do not have much knowledge about other religion. That's why there's not much dialogue taken place,
Yes.
inter-religious dialogue in Malaysia. I think in Asia there are much more. I've attended a few in Medan, where there are a lot of inter-religious dialogue. Siddiq used to attend all this program in Medan. So okay, can I have the last comment before that?
There's one question here before we take the last comment from someone from Cambodia, IIIT office. He says, what is the social perspective of Ramadan in Thailand between Muslims and non-Muslims? Well, in Thailand, Ramadan is practiced by Muslims are a minority, so Muslims practice it by themselves. At least as far as I know, that there is a recognition of Eid al-Fitr holiday for the Muslims in southern part of Thailand, and also every year until this year, the government of Thailand used to host iftar for the Muslims every year. But most of the Buddhists in Thailand do not know much about Ramadan, because, as Professor Jamil himself said, there's not much dialogue taking place. This time, we Muslims started initiating dialogue with other religions.
Yeah, Chi should take the initiative also. Chi Han is your friend, the president of the
Yes.
book.
Yes.
And Abim maybe and the others.
Yeah.
And
Yes, sir.
Welcome. Yeah, Chi.
Yes, Encik Jamil, I would very much like to do that, you know, and I myself is not a scholar. I'm just more of a lay person, organizer. I'm more of a person who organize things. Well, of course, there are a whole pool of really enlightened scholars who can engage with this group of eminent speakers like yourself and Professor Imtiyaz. So very much we would like to do that in future.
Chi, you are a very important person. Don't belittle yourself. We will like your cooperation and your support, and we see you as an important partner in our venture of dialogue between Islam and Buddhism.
Yes, definitely.
In the university, IIM, we have the program on comparative religions. So it would be good if the lecturers teaching comparative religion sometimes will invite the people from other religion to come and give the talk. So
which university is this?
Arrange all this, no?
Which university?
Professor Fauzan, he's in the university now.
Okay.
Maybe we can help by influencing the lecturers who are teaching comparative religion to like the people in the Buddhist, Christian, and to give a talk in the class, maybe 1 or 2 hours, part of their, instead of they themselves presenting it, the first hand. People
Certainly. I can introduce people for that, you know.
Thank you.
Some lecturers, last time Professor Anis was used to teach comparative religion. He went to visit the temple in Batu Cave and in Chinese temple in Genting Highland and others, just to see how the people of other religion practice.
Right.
Here at ISTAC, my comment here is that here at ISTAC, Professor Osman Bakar has been very much engaged in Islam Confucian dialogue and dialogue between Islam and other religion. He's very, very active, and his contribution is really to be appreciated.
Yeah, we need this in our country. We need this in our country when more like-minded people from different religions come together and talk. It can only be good for our country. Whether it's not only our country and the world, and in the world as well, Southeast Asia and the world.
So we already live in the multi-religious society, but we do not understand each other. No?
Yeah, that's right.
So they tend to be very secretive about their religion.
That's right. Yeah.
And all the others who participated in this online intellectual discourse number 10. Before we end this one, we'd like to invite Professor Fauzan maybe to promote some other few program coming up on Saturday and next week. Please, Fauzan.
Thank you, Dr. Jamil. Tomorrow, 5 o'clock, we're going to have COVID-19, the perfect storm, where we invited from Zia from London, Chris from US, Liam from Australia, and Jody from Spain. We're going to have discussion. This you can refer to the slide IIDSO, Institute Darul Ihsan. This there's a slide on next to Dr. Jamil, show that this tomorrow event 5 to 9:30, and on Saturday 4 o'clock Malaysian time, Professor Dr. Malik Badri, all the way from Istanbul, going to you can see the sharing from IIDSO. This is event on tomorrow, Friday, 5 to 6:30. So you can register. Why we do it 5 to 6:30? Because we have to consider those in Australia and United States, in London and Spain, and we are in Malaysia. So 5 to 6:30, the only time that suitable for all. Because during the night we're going to focus on our Taraweh, and during the days they don't wake up yet from US. So this is 5 to 6:30 tomorrow. Please join us. Please register.
Inshallah.
This, inshallah, this the cooperation between IIIT, Institute Darul Ihsan, and Center for Post-Normal Policy and Future Studies. And on Friday, on Saturday, 4 o'clock, we're going to have Professor Malik Badri, where we have this Professor Malik Badri. We're going to talk on spirituality and Ramadan, 4 o'clock. So all of us, all of you are invited. Then next week, Dr. Jamal, Dr. Shafi Antonio from Indonesia, going to talk at the same time today, but next week, 2:30. Shafi Antonio, I think he was the former CEO of Bank of what, Dato'?
He's the Tazkiyah Group. He was the
Tazkiyah.
founder of Tazkiyah University College, and specialized in Islamic banking. He was a Sharia advisor to the Islamic Bank, to Central Bank of Malaysia and Indonesia also, and the bank in IDB Bank in Jeddah. He's a well-distinguished scholar, and he graduated from Jordan and also coming to do master's program at IUM, and after that PhD in Australia. I think with his exposure in the field, I think we would like to benefit from him, inshallah.
Yeah, Dato', you can see our poster, Psychological Reflection on the Emotional Life of Prophet, 4 o'clock on Saturday. You can see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay, I'll pass back to you, Dato'.
Okay, so we will close our session, but maybe Brother Shahran can allow for 5 minutes. Those who are not living, they can communicate informally to each other after closing the session. So we end our session with Tasbih Kibarah in Surah Al-As.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.